Once again, you are welcome to this session, and today we are having our session on a typical data analysis, and this will conclude the recordings for this course, HSR 8201, which is the Health Dataset Organization and Analysis. As you recall, we've gone through a series of recordings, and we've given you all the various ingredients, the major areas that this course involves. We started by going through the introduction of the course. We went through the syllabus. We covered the major areas of assessment. If you may recall, we assess the conceptual framework, and the second area that is handed in, that is assessed, is the data analysis plan. Then the third component that we assess is the write-up of the results and their interpretation. And this area involves an introduction to the subject. We skip the data collection methods because you are using a secondary data, but then we include the statistical methods, the methods that you used to arrive at the results, and then the results themselves in a table or figure form or a combination of both, and the narrative of the results, particularly the major components of the results. We did go through the conceptual framework and indicated it is a comprehensive conceptual framework that involves the schematic part of it and the narrative part of it. The schematic is so comprehensive, it includes the factors that you are going to study and the ones that you are not going to study. But the narrative only focuses on the ones that you are going to study and the interrelationship between these factors and the outcome. And then we moved into the data analysis plan and how the two are linked, the conceptual framework and the data analysis plan. And now we moved into exploratory data review and exploratory data analysis. And we are going to wind up with a typical example of data analysis, which is our session today. Recall also that we previously went through the use of Stata. And we said that every time you open Stata to begin any analysis, it is always better to create a log file and a do file. And we went through the difference between the two. And as you recall from the last session, we created a do file and a log file that we are going to be using for this typical case of data analysis. Okay, so we are now going to move to Stata. We are going to use our UDHS dataset, and we are going to go through the various components of data analysis. We also previously gave you a session on dealing with the variables, particularly categorization of variables. A detailed session was covered. And we think by the time we've reached this stage, you've reviewed all the recordings, all the clips for the previous studies, or the previous sessions, I beg your pardon. So now let's move to the practical part of this. So we have our Stata opened up, and on my computer I'm using Stata 14, and we now go and open our logo file. Remember, we already created this logo file, and it is a log.log, and so it is here. We have this, no, it is a different one. Let me go, it is in this folder, and it is here, exploratory data review and analysis. So we open this log, we click save, and then we want to append. And appending here means that everything we do today is going to be added on to where we ended last time on our log file. So we also open our do file, and we want to add on to our do file. So we go here to files and look at the recent projects or recent files, and we have our do files. There are so many actually. So I don't know which is which because I use this thing a lot. So let me now open and go to, yes, we called it status do. So we open our do file and recall that the do file is a storage of all your commands that you are using in Stata. So recall that in the do file, we can use the do file as a notebook. Once we put a star or an asterisk at the beginning, every Stata command is disabled. So Stata becomes a notebook. Basically, that turns it into Notepad. And you see the Notepad or the notes that we put there ourselves are actually recorded in green. And the Stata commands are in blue or black. And the file names are in maroon. And so you can actually see by just looking at the color code, you can know which is which. Now today, we are going we've already opened our log, and we are going to use a typical data set that you people actually have. We've used this data set for teaching applied biostatistics 1 and applied biostatistics 2. It is called the low birth weight data set, and we are going to take you through a typical data analysis. So now when we go through this, where is my data file? Let me look for the data set, and I see, open it up, and then we can go through it. Where is low birth weight data set? No, it shouldn't be that one. Yeah, it's right here. So we double click, and you see it says use gives the path, and it goes all the way. Remember that we now are using a different file. So in our logo file, it is there. That file we've opened, the log is already indicating the file we are using, but the do does not indicate it. So we copy it and take it in our do, and we can even put there, annotate it, and say a typical data analysis session using low birth weight data. And so now we annotate it. So we know everything we are going to do here is we're just going through a typical session. We are using low birth weight data. You guys are going to use actually the UDHS data set, or if you have any data set on your own, you can always communicate to the coordinator and say, for me, I have my own data set from a study I worked on or I'm working on, and that's what I'm going to use. And then we require to look at that data set so that we know that you actually have those variables. But of course, it is your data. We will never use it for anything because it's not our data. So when you paste it here, you realize that it's going beyond the line. So we put this one back. And once it is now well aligned, it can show you clearly. You can see it well aligned because now the directorate of the file is turning maroon. So, and the command is here, use, and we put a comma after the quotes and say clear. So if there is any other data in memory, it should be cleared so that it's only this data that are going to be used. So because we are using this because you're already familiar with this data set, so we want to go through a typical example. Now look, this data set is not labeled at all, but you guys already know the variables. But we can label these variables so that we know what they actually mean. And the command is label var. So we click on this var, and we label it in 2 quotation marks and say this is participant identification number. So that when we look at it, ID, we don't necessarily need to try and remember what is this. Then we can also label var law, because, and how do you get this? You get this from the dictionary, by the way. Label var law, and if we go back where I got this variable, because I know this data set a lot, I know that this is law babies low birth weight in the categorical form. And we have this last age is age of the mother, so you can say label var age. Now you realize that if the data person, the data manager, had done a good job, would not be wasting this time. Age of mother at time of conception. And this is from the data set, not at the time of birth, at the time of conception. So you go on recording, and LWT is mother's weight in pounds at the time of conception. So a good data set will come when the variables are labeled. And if you're going to be a data manager for some study, you should always remember to label the variables before you send them out to other people. You give them the dictionary, but you also send them the labeled variables. For example, L label var LWT, and this is mother's weight mother's weight at first antenatal visit in pounds. This is very important. You help people know the units. For any variable that has units, it is important to help people to know the units. Because if you just say mother's weight, somebody may not know. Is it in kilograms? Is it in grams? Is it, what is the unit? So that if somebody is to change the variable and they want it in kilograms, then they can actually do all these kind of things. So the first thing to do is to always check how many people are in the data set. And usually we say code book, this identifier. And once you code book the identifier, you realize that this variable is now labeled participant's identification number because we labeled it ourselves. But otherwise, if it had come with a label, that would have said it. It shows the range. They are from 4 to 226. And there are 189 unique variables. And one unit is 1, it is all in numbers, and only 0 are missing. So these are how many people in the data set with IDs, 189 observations. None of them is missing for that value. And then it gives you, all these things are not really important. What is the meaning? Because you just arbitrarily assign these numbers. So you can also browse it by typing bra, just ID. Once we say bra that variable, it only brings that variable. But if you, and this one is not yet sorted, that's why it is beginning with 85. But if you first sort it, you say sort ID. Then browse ID. And remember, once you have the cursor in the command window, when you use the page up, it goes back to the previous commands. So I can go back to that browse after sorting, either by double clicking on it, and it will do what? It will execute it, or I can go here and click on it once, it brings it into the command window, but doesn't execute it. But if I double click on it, it will bring it in the command window and also execute it. So the lowest ID is 4. And that is, and the highest, now it has sorted them in ascending order, the highest is 226 in terms of numbers. But the number of people are 189. Those are the ID numbers. You realize that the people range from 1 to 189. Those are the observations, but they are labeled from lowest 4 to highest 226. And this is what we got. This is what we got here when we did summarize. It says range from 4, that's the minimum ID. The maximum is 226, but there are 189 unique variables. 0 of them is missing. Okay? Okay, now we have, let's look at this code book. It's always good to use this code book. Code book, this variable low, and it is 0, 1. So we don't know what 0 stands for. We don't know what 1 stands for. So we go back to our dictionary. And we go back to our dictionary. Although this is something we would have done a long time ago before we reach this stage of data analysis. This should have been done during data review, exploratory data review, and then you make all these corrections that you want to make. So data review and biostats, and then we have Thrive. That's where we got the dictionary, and then we have this database file, and we have this text. So the text, now you can see this is the dictionary. It gives us the name, low birth weight, the keywords, logistic regression, the size, 189 observations, there are 11 variables. The source, this is from the book Applied Logistic Regression by Hosmer Emisho, and it gives you the goal of the study was to identify risky factors associated with giving birth to a low birth weight baby. And low birth weight was a baby weighing less than 2,500 grams. Data were collected on 189 women, 59 of them had low birth weight babies, 130 had normal birth weight babies. So a secondary data typically has a dictionary which looks like this. And so when you are doing your exploratory data review, you look at the dictionary. Remember, know your data. So this dictionary helps you to know what was the purpose of the study. Because for you, you may be analyzing it for something totally different because it's a secondary data. But you need to know why did these people do this study and the data they actually collected. And so there are those 11 variables. Then we go to each variable. You see, ID stands for identification code. Low stands for low birth weight. 0 means the birth weight is greater or equal to 2,500 grams. 1 means the birth weight is less than 2,550. So anybody in variable low that is coded 1 is the one with low birth weight. The one that is coded 0 is the one with the normal birth weight. Now, once we have that information, then we go back. We now go back to our dictionary, and now we are going to label the values of this variable. Instead of appearing them as 0, 1, we want them to know what 0 stands for and what 1 stands for. So we use the command label define. So we define an arbitrary variable. Let's call it low cat, just for categories. And 0 stands for what? 0 stands for normal what? Normal weight. Normal birth weight. And 1 is for low birth weight. Now, this we are defining an arbitrary variable called the low cat. And low cat, the values in low cat that are 0 stand for normal weight. The ones that are 1 stand for low birth weight. Then we define that variable. Now, once we define it, remember, look here, it is not added as a variable. because it is an arbitrary variable. We are using it to label the values. Then we say label values. Now we want to label the values of this variable, that is the data set low, according to this arbitrary variable we've defined, which is low what? Low cut. Eh? So we are telling Stata, go to the variable, the real variable low. Look for the values in that variable low. Whichever is 0, label it according to how we defined in low cut. Whichever is 1, label it according to how we defined low cut. So Stata will go to low and label the zeros in low as normal weight and label the ones as low birth weight. And now once we do that, again, it is not changing this variable. Why? Because it's just labeling its values. So now we can now go back and code book this variable. And now look what happens. When we code book it, it brings the same information as here. But instead of giving us 0 and 1, it now gives us a value, numeric 0 and 1, and the label. 0 stands for normal birth weight, 1 stands for low birth weight. So everything that we are going to do in analyzing, instead of coming it as 0, 1 in the tables, and we start figuring out, oh, what was 0, oh, what was 1, it's now going to come out as normal weight and what? Low birth weight. So these are the things that you do in exploratory data analysis and review. Because in a review, you first get to know what the data is. In analysis, you start now saying, okay, I know the dictionary says this, but for me, I want to label it so that it comes out exactly what it is and doesn't confuse me. Remember, in the exploratory data review, you are having a bird's eye view. You are not changing anything in the data set, but you are just acquainting yourself with the data set. Now you move to step 2, exploratory data analysis. Now you are actually manipulating the data, but in an exploratory manner. You are not yet doing any analysis. You are now starting to put your things right, you see, the way you want them to be. So we now go back to our dictionary. And we have mother's age in years. This is age of mother in years, and this is what? The variable age. So for us, we had recorded it, mother's age of mother at time of conception. So we may actually go back and change this to make it appear exactly like what it is. It's age of mother in years. Okay? And so we are going to label that variable. And we are using the command labv. Remember in Stata, the first 3 letters of any command represent the same command. We can do this as label in full. We can, what did I just do? It's supposed to be label and remove this here. And yes. And so we can use lab or we can say label. It will be the same. And so it will label it. Age in years. Then we go back to the dictionary and look at weight. You see, weight, the variable LWT is weight in pounds at last menstrual period. The good thing, you can actually copy this, highlight it, right click, copy it, then you go to the command window and go to where we labeled the variable LWT and now come into these quotation marks and paste it there. Paste it there. So just as it is the dictionary. So it is labeled that way. Weight in pounds at last menstrual period. So you do this and label all your variables. So we have race. So race is not only labeled, but it's also telling you what shape it is taking on. What is 1, what is 2, what is 3. So then you can go here and say label var res, and of course you put the quotation marks and then you paste it there and you label it there. So you don't only see that it is race, but in the bracket you also know 1 stands for white, 2 stands for black, and 3 stands for other. Then we can code book this variable and say, okay, code book race. And there it is. We have 96 and 26 and what? 67. But the variables are not labeled. So we can now go back and say, okay, we don't want to keep remembering what is 1, what is 2, what is 3. So we say label, define a variable. I can call it race, race, and just like the other name. Maybe I can call it race label, race lab. 1 stands for what? One stands for white, isn't it? It's even there. 1 white, 2 black, 3 stands for other. Okay. Then we say label values race, label them according to our variable we've defined there, which is race what? Race lab. Starter is case sensitive, so you have to use exactly the same case. Now we code book that variable after you've labeled the labels, you see? Now it is no longer, it's not giving us only 96 1. 26, those who are coded to are 26. It's now telling us 91 is for white, 2 is for black, and 3 is for other. So that when you do any analysis, you now know exactly what those variables stand for. Then you go back and look at smoke. Okay? And this is smoking status during what? Pregnancy. So we copy this and we go back and label this variable. So we say lab, label var, and the variable, we don't type them in. We always double click them from the variable window. Because if you type them in, you may misspell it and it will show you that it's not there. And let me demonstrate that. Let me misspell this one intentionally, and instead of typing in smoke with O, I type in smoke with 0. Okay? And then I say label this variable, and I give it what I want to be labeled from the dictionary, and I press enter. You see what it will tell you? That variable is not found. Why? Because I mistyped it. If I also mistype it by putting 2 O's instead of 1 O, it is still O, but I put 2 O's there, 2 capital O's instead of 1, it will also say that variable is not what? So you always have to click the variable instead of typing it in, because you can make an error. Double click it from there because it will come with this spelling. Now we just labeled it. Smoking during, this is smoke, smoking status during pregnancy. 1 is yes, 0 is no. So again, we code book this variable, smoke, and now we label those values. So label, define another variable called smoke in small letters. 0 is no, and 1 is yes. So then after you've defined that arbitrary label variable, then we say label values of this variable. Again, we don't type in smoke, label it according to this smoke of small capital letters that we've defined up here. Then we code book it, and now see it brings. So you label your things and get to know what the variables stand for, and you can do the rest of this. And let's label just the last one, BWT, which is birth weight. The rest you can label because you have this data set. BWT, notice that this data manager was a wonderful one because he gave us what the variable stand for, but also for all those that were measurements, he gave us the units. He gave us the mother's age in years, he gave us the mother's weight in pounds, and he gave us a baby's weight in grams. So we come here and label this variable. Label var birth weight, and we label it according to what we've copied from the dictionary, and we have birth weight in grams. Now, we can have so many questions here. Now, just to demonstrate, we are going to do two things. We are going to analyze our data with the birth weight as a categorical and birth weight as a continuous. So by the way, I did forget something, that every command that works for you, if you want to store them, particularly those commands that you executed something, you want to copy these commands into your do file, not the code book ones, but the ones where you did something. You labeled the variable, you labeled its what? Values. So you can click here. Ideally, it should be once you execute it and it works, you take it there and then. But now I executed so many, so I will click them, then press Ctrl and click on another one so that I get many at the same time. I press on Ctrl and I get them at the same time. You see I'm skipping the ones that were in red because they didn't work. Do you notice that? Yeah, I'm skipping those ones in red because they actually didn't work. I don't want to copy them. Now, after I've highlighted them, then I right-click, copy all of them at once, take them into my do file, and I paste them there. And every time you add something into the do file, this save thing here icon highlights blue. That means you added something and you haven't saved. Once you save, it goes gray. So it now shows you everything in this do file is saved. Once we add anything, yes, for demonstration purpose, we make a change there. You see, we've made a change by just removing the space in the double quotation. It now goes blue. Means you've done something without saving. And now we've saved it. So everything in our do file is now what? Saved. Okay? So now we can annotate. And annotate by saying, and put there the things, the asterisk, and say analyzing low birth weight as a continuous variable. So everything we're going to do here, so with analyzing low birth weight as a continuous variable. Because when you go back to our do file, by annotating and putting in notices, it helps us to know how did I do this. You know, this is what I was doing. All the commands below here pertain to what I was doing. Rather than just copying commands and putting them there, when you forget a certain commands, you go start asking yourself, oh, what was this command for? I don't remember. But a good analyst will always annotate and put notes for themselves. And once we put in this highlights blue. So we now save. Now we go back. So we are now going to analyze our variable, low birth weight, as a continuous. Now, as a continuous variable, the first thing, whether continuous or not, we will code book it to see if there are any missings. You see? It shows that there are no what? There are no missing. You see it from here? Okay, now the first thing also, the other thing we do is to find out whether this, summarize this variable. So we do summarize, you can write the word summarize in full, or you can write sum, the first three letters. Summarize this variable, we are now doing the descriptives in detail. And you see what you see here is the same thing you get as when you do sum. If you do sum, the first three letters, it gives you exactly the same. So what does this show us? It shows us that the median, which is here, median weight is 2 point what? It is 29977 grams, okay? And the interquartile range is from this to this. And the mean is this, the standard deviation is this, the variance, the skewness, and the kurtosis. Now, somebody may say, okay, I want to do my thing in kilograms, not in grams. I want my birth weight should be in kilograms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this into kilograms. So I generate a new variable, and the new variable is birth weight underscore in kilograms is equal to this birth weight in grams divided by what? Divided by 1,000. Okay? So because this is a real variable, you see it has added it here. Now we have to label it so that we are sure what value we are dealing with. So label var, this one, and now we are going to label it, and we are labeling it birth label var. It's not that one. We say label var. We click on it, then we put our quotations, and we are now labeling it birth weight in kilograms. Now it's no longer in grams, so we have 2. Now we say we are going to do all our analysis in kilograms. So now we take this command here, and we control and place on these 2 commands. They've worked for us. We want to save them in our do file so that we know what we did. Every time we execute a command using birth weight underscore kg, we know that that is weight in kilograms, and we know how we got it because we can see from the command above it that we replaced the other command, the other weight in grams, by dividing it with 1,000. And now we've added something. Look, is it yet saved or not? It's not, so we save it. And we go back to the command window. Now we want to summarize in kilograms, and say summarize birth weight in kilograms in detail. And you see now what it brings you is exactly the same, only that it has divided it by 100. So the median, now we can even put in notes, and we say, we put an asterisk, and you say median, median in bracket interquartile range of birth weight is equal to 2.977 kgs, okay, and the interquartile range from the 25th percentile 2.414 to 75th percentile, which is 3.475. And once we do that, now which we note, SATA will take it as notes because we put a star at the beginning. Okay? Then we can also say the mean in bracket standard deviation of birth weight in kilograms, birth weight in kgs is equal, our mean is here, 2.944, we round off 45, and the standard deviation is there, 0.7 what? Hold on 1 second. 0.729. And once we do that, it is our command. Then we look at the skewness and kurtosis. Skewness is even less than 1, and the kurtosis is about 3. So the data look a little bit more normally distributed, just from that per se. We can also say, okay, now we have these. So we take these in the logo file, but not in our do file. So we copy them and take them in our do file. But in our do file, they are not coming as commands. They are coming as notices. And you see, they are in green. So what are we doing here? We are summarizing the variables, doing the descriptives, but at the same time, we are getting what we shall include in the tables or even in the narrative. Rather than going, because now once I close my Stata, I don't necessarily need to go back and look at the Stata window. I can just look at the log because everything is saved in my log. So I can come here and click here, and I say log, view snapshot, and it brings my log, and then I scroll down, and I can see everything I did, good and bad, and even the things, the notes. So I can analyze, and every bullet table I select what will be important for discussion, and I put it there, so that when I go to write up, I don't necessarily need to go back and reanalyze. Everything I thought was important as I was doing analysis, I put an annotation on it. So I go to my logo file, and I just look for those things I annotated, the interpretations, and then I know what I'm going to use. Okay? Okay, so now we've summarized that variable. We can even actually draw a box plot if we wanted. So, and do you remember the command for drawing a box plot? Well, starter is also point click now. You don't need to remember and memorize these commands. You can actually go here, graphics, and choose box plot, okay? And then choose, is it horizontal or is it vertical? You want horizontal, and say variables. Then you select variables. Which variable are we using? This variable in weight in kilograms. And then we say OK, without remembering the command. And we wait, you see? And it brings the box plot. You could also have just given start a command and say graph box, and you select the variable. So now, if we want to save this, first of all, what does this box plot show us? It shows us that the median is almost the mean. Of course, it's in between here. And we have a lower whisker, which goes to 1 kilogram, and a higher whisker, which goes to 5 kilograms. And we have an outlier variable on the lower side, which goes below 1 kilogram. Remember, from applied bio 1, how we calculate the whiskers. You remember how we calculate the whiskers? 1.5 times the interquartile range plus Q3 plus 1.5 times the interquartile range brings you to here. Q1, which is the 25, minus 1.5 times the interquartile range brings you to here. Anything below the lower whisker or above the lower whisker is an outlier. So this box plot now shows us. And you can actually save this graph. You can say file and say save as. Or you can even copy. You can go to the object, go graph, edit it, copy this graph, and then you can even go to Word, open Word, a document in Word, and save and copy the box plot there, and it brings it there. Okay? So you can even copy and keep your graphs there, so that you can always go back when you are writing and bring up your graphs. So data analysis is an iterative, interactive process. When you find something that you are going to use in your write-up, please put it somewhere. It's always better to go into data analysis when you've created the shell tables. Create the shell tables and say population, social demographics. For example, we can go to Word and open another document, and so we open another document in Word. We can go here and open another document. We can basically, if you know those, you can just say Control N, which is new. It brings up a new document. Then I always want to use mine without spacing, and so then I can even say table 1, and I name it social demographic characteristics of the study population. Okay, and I can draw this table. We always advise people to draw cell-based tables. So, and cell-based table, so I can come here and go to insert and say table. Then I select how many rows and how many columns. Okay, let me start with the 2 rows, 3 rows, and many columns. You can always add. Okay, then I can say this is the characteristic that I'm going to be studying, characteristic. This is going to be the number, and this is going to be the proportional percentage. Okay? So this is how I'm going to describe my social demographic. But because the numbers are small, I don't need to give these columns the same weight. So I give the number and I give the percentage as try to beautify my table. And also, some people who may not be able to read that, I will actually use the percentage sign, and I put the percentage sign there so that they have both the word. Now I can come here in characteristic and I say all these mothers. So there is no need for saying sex. They are all what? Mothers. So I can say age. Okay? Age of mother. Age of mother. Then I want to give this age in form of mean and standard deviation, and then I will also give the median and interquartile range, and then I will also give the categories. I'm going to categorize my age. Okay? Because this is the main variable, it is important to identify it out of the sub-variable. So I will bold it. And then I can actually indent this so that it is seen that whatever is appearing here is actually under that variable. So if assuming I've created my categories already, and I have, we went through this by the way, there is a whole session, but assuming I have, let me go back here, and I summarize age detail so that I can move in a knowing manner. Age should be summarized age detail. So summarize age and detail. So I need to know the lowest is 14, the highest is 45. So I come and create my categories and I'm doing this from literature review. By the way, remember, literature review is showing me what other people have been doing, how they've been categorizing this, and what is the rationale. And if you've forgotten, you can refer back to that session that we gave earlier on dealing or categorizing continuous variables. So I have 14 to 19. That is one category. Then I have 20 to 29. Then I have 30 to 39 and 42, and now I can insert more whatever. So I can just come here, right click, insert a column or row below, and I can insert as many rows I want. If I click on 3, I can insert, so I can insert many rows. So this thing you should have studied this, insert, and insert rows below. And you see I keep enlarging my table. Then I have the 42. What was the maximum? 45. I don't just end up doing 40 plus. Okay? 40 to 45. Now I move to another characteristic. So you draw your tables, the shell tables before. Okay? Draw the shell tables before so that when you are analyzing the data, you are following your data analysis plan follows your shell tables. So what other variable do we have in the data set? So we go back. We have, for example, race, white, black, others. So now we go back here and we leave a line. So we put in another variable, race. Okay, now race, we have white, we have black, we have others. Okay, others. Okay, now race, these are categories. Race is a major, S is the variable, so I want it to stand out. Okay, now when I go to now input, if I have the shell table like this, table 1, and I now go to input to put in data. Okay, so I go to my stata here, and remember the categories. We have age as a continuous variable, but we also have age as a categorical variable. We've created 4 categories. So we saw this before, how we can generate new variables from other variables. We can either use the generate, replace command, which takes a long time, or we can use the record. So now we want to create age that is categorical. And we have 4 categories: 14 to 19, 20 to 29, 30 to 39, 40 to 45. So we can now say record age, and record age 14 through 19, record them, code 0. 20 through 29, code them 1. 30 to 30 through 39, code them 2. And 40 through 45, code them 3. And in comma we say generate, after making those changes, generate a new variable called age underscore cat, age categories. And we execute the command. See? Now it says 189 differences between age and age cat. But remember now age cat is a true variable, so it has put it there. So we want to bring this age cat near age where it came, from which it came, so that we know they are adjacent to each other. Once we browse our data or we look at our data, we are sure. So we use order. We order from ID to age, and afterwards the next variable that should follow should be age cat. And once we do that, guess what happens? Now age cat moves from below to above. So now our variables are ordered ID, row, age, age cat. So we know every time we are looking at age, we know there is another variable, age cat. Every time you generate a new variable out of another one, please move it in order so that they are adjacent to each other. It helps you a lot to see exactly what you are dealing with. Okay? Then now we have those categories, and we have to now take this command, record. We have to take this command into our do file so that we remember what we did, and we put it there. It is a command, and of course we save. Now remember, when we tabulate that command, okay, when we tabulate it and say tab age cat, okay, tab age cat, remember we created 4 categories ranging from 0 to 3, and that is where they are. Now look at something. We have category 3 has only 1 member there. Remember, when we went through categorization of continuous variables, we looked at a number of factors. One was homogeneity within the category, heterogeneity between categories. Then we looked at numbers within each category. And now code 3 doesn't make a sense. There's only 1 person. We cannot make any meaningful analysis, especially parametric analysis, because we are making some assumptions. Like for chi-square, each cell should have an expected number of minimum 5. You see now how this course brings all the things you studied before. So now we are going to go back and decode this value. We are going now to move into 3 categories, whereby everybody that is 3, we are going to combine 3 and 2 into 1 category. So we say, and then we say, we put a note, and you say combining categories 3 and 2 into category 2 because of small numbers in category 3. We save that. Now, this is something that we have to take into our do file because we need to remember that. And where is our do file? For some reason it was closed, but we will get it. Recent files, so start as do. Then we come here and put that annotation, so that the command that is going to follow it is going to be the one that we now see what we are doing with that command because we've annotated this. So we say record age cut. Everywhere 3, make it equal to 2. Turn all the 3's into 2. Okay? So that we don't, and we do that. And we see if it has done that. We say tabulate age cut. Now they should stop to 2. Initially, 2 was 27, 2 was 26, 3 was 1. We combined these two under 2. They must be equal 26 plus 1, which is 27. Do you see that? So we take this command here into our do file. I think by now you have noticed that data analysis is an interactive process. Now we need to know what is 0, what is 1, what is 2. So 0 was 14 to 19. 1 was 30, was 20 to 29. 2 was 30 to 39. 3 was 40 to 45, and we combined them. So now 2 is 30 to 45. So now we do our label define, because we want now to label these 0, 1, 2 so that they don't confuse us. So we label define, and we can even call it, say, age label. 0 is 14 to 19. 1 is 20 to 29. And 2 is 30 to 45. Because we combined the original 3, we combined it into 2. Then we say label values age cut, label them according to age what? Age lab. Age lab. Now we say tab this variable. You see? It is no longer bringing 0, 1, 2. Now it is meaningful. We say exactly what it is. So we take this command and also this command of label values, and we take them into our do file. And remember, we had annotated already. We had already annotated that we are combining categories 2 and 3 into category 2. So everything we did here, record 3 is equal to 2, label define, all that was doing that. Okay? And we save. So it is really an interesting thing if you know what you are doing, and if you bother to do it in the right way. It's a very interesting thing. Now, look at we now go back to our shell table. We need a mean and age of mother, mean and median, but we have them. Anybody remembers where they are? We have them in our what? In our do file. Where is the mean? It is here. And the standard deviation. This is the mean, and that's the standard deviation. So we can copy it from here, and now start to, as we analyze, we are doing many things. We are filling our what? Our table. So this one, because this is not numbers, this category here may be misleading. Okay? So we may create, this label may be misleading. So we may create another column here and say, put the cursor here and insert a column to the left. Okay? And so this is where we put things that do not pertain to numbers. So we put this, and we can summarize, or we may leave it as it is. And so widen this what? this, so there is the mean. So we go back and look for the median. Okay? The median and the interquartile range are also there. Okay? You see how life becomes easier? Okay? You had the shell tables. You are doing your analysis according to the shell tables. We don't need the kilograms because it's already in the kilograms. And we may need to change this to 2 decimal points. And you can do that according to what you choose, what you do, to put them to 2 decimal points. And you can see everything below 5, for me I don't round it up. I only round up above 5. So there you go. So we go to age in categories. Do we have it? It's there. But now, when we are designing, doing a conceptual framework and data analysis, we thought we would use 4 categories. When we started manipulating the data, we realized they are only, the meaningful are 3. So we have to change this to 45, and now we have to delete this, this cell. And we are deleting the entire row? Yes. Then we go back to our findings. What are the numbers in this? It is 51, and this is the percentage. So you can either first take this, you say 51, so you come here, and you put in the numbers. In this category, under the column of numbers, there, 51, you paste it there. Then you go to the next category. What is the number? Please don't memorize them, because you may say 111, but when you get there, you say 11. So it is always better copy and paste. Then what is the other category? The other category is 27. Okay? And then so we only highlight 27 and copy 27. Oops. Okay. This is highlighting many things we don't want. So it is 27. Then we come to the percentages. So we go back to our data and we get the percentage. Please, please, always copy paste. Okay? And if we are doing 3 decimal points, we round off, but that's the decision. 2 decimal points, that's the decision we take for demonstration purposes. I'm not going to tell you round off or don't round off. It is your decision that you would have done when you are doing your, should have taken that decision when you are doing your data analysis plan. Remember, it is stepwise, logical, coherent. So you should have already made that decision that I round off to 2 decimal points or 1 decimal point, and you give a reason. Because I want to publish this in this journal, and the journal requires only 1 decimal point. Or I want to, genetically, I want to leave it to 2 decimal point so that people who prefer further rounding off, they can round off themselves. So you see, now we are doing analysis at the same time, we are doing exploratory descriptive analysis at the same time populating our shell tables. So if we stopped here, for example, we do not only have the do file and the logo file. We have the do file, which is up to date. We have the logo file, and we have a populated shell table. So we have gone many milestones in doing this, okay? So then we can now go back to race and say, okay, we now need to do what? We need to go to race. So tabulate race. And once we tabulate race, there we go. We have white, black, and other. We have 96 and 26, 67. So 96, 26, 67. But please don't do what I'm doing. 96, 20. Oh, it's in the wrong, even the wrong place. It should be under whites, 96. Now I don't remember the second one. I know the last one was 67. And I think this one will be 26, but always better to look there. Always better. 26. Okay. So, and copy paste 26. Then you put in the percentages. So I think this is enough demonstration. Now, so let's go to the actual, to more analysis. Okay. So always draw your shell tables. So we go to more analysis, and we may look at those, how many of those we are smoking. So tabulate, smoke. So, and we have what? Smoke, yes, no, and we have those numbers. Again, we would have drawn in our shell another variable, another characteristic, smoke, and we already put it there. We have the yes and the no. So we populate it, and this is a variable, so we make it stand out as opposed to the categories below it. So you see, it becomes now very interesting. Now we are going to leave this, and now all the descriptive, you go to all the variables that are meaningful according to your conceptual framework. Okay? So now, assuming that we've done all this, we now go to another table where I want to demonstrate. We draw another table. And the table, which usually you guys can always like to work with, it may not be table 2, your table 2 may be stratified. And you stratify by a certain variable that you think is important. But I'm going to skip it and go to the final table. And let me call it table X, and I say crude and adjusted, crude and adjusted. And now remember, all we are doing so far, we are analyzing this as what? As we are analyzing birth weight as a continuous variable, not as a categorical. Yeah, crude and adjusted linear regression measures for birth weight, baby birth weight. Okay, then I can draw my table, and I have the characteristics. I can actually just copy this table, by the way. I can copy this table, Control C. That shows that I'm a dose person. That shows I must be above a certain age. And then, I need only 2 columns. So I'm going to delete one of these columns. And so I go to delete, and I want to delete an entire column. And I want to clear contents, everything here. So I highlight, right click on it. Where are you? I want to clear all the comments in this column. Okay, it's now not giving me that. And clear, is clear content somewhere. Okay, I'm going to spend a lot of time on it. I can clear them manually, although that is not the best thing. Clear contents should now come up. Oops. Undercut. Home. Oh, it's under home. Okay, but I can cut them out anyway. Okay. And I can also cut this one out. And so I have crude and adjusted. Crude and adjusted. Okay, so now we probably don't need what? Median and mean anymore. We need to delete those cells. And okay, we have those categories. Probably now don't even to say categories, because we just need that category. Okay, so now we start our analysis. Okay, and for example, since our outcome variable is age, baby birth weight here in kilograms, and it's continuous, We even need to label it properly because what we used, bath, was not proper. We misspelled bath. So label variable, which is here. So we bring back this and spell bath properly. Okay. So now we start by, we use the command regress. And we are regressing this, and we are regressing it on categories of edge cut. Okay. So edge cut. Okay. So here you go. There you go. And you now have this regression, and it now gives you this information. Remember, there are 3 categories. It is created one which is labeled 0 as the reference. So it has only the comparison in between. So here you come here and indicate clearly reference. This is the reference. Okay? Reference. Then it is comparing this to this and this to this. And here it is giving us the coefficients as they are. And you can now come to our table and modify it to make it more meaningful. Okay? You modify it to make it more meaningful. So we are going to take a short break, and then we are going to continue.